Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is Faith at Faith and Books. I'm going to do a review or a haul of all the books that I have acquired over the summer so far, because I realized it's really added up. And then I'm going to do a very loose, quick TBR for August. And then I'm anticipating that by this evening I'll have finished 2 books. So then maybe tomorrow I'll do very short reviews and then put this video up. And then I have another one scheduled to go up on Friday and another one next week, but I'm going away on Friday. So I'm only going to put up those for next week, but I won't be around. I don't think I'm going to be on the internet very much next week. So anyway, so here is my haul. So I started getting books this summer first when I went to the Outer Banks at the end of June, and we stayed at a house near Jeanette's Pier, which is a famous, or I don't know, famous, but well-known fishing pier that was, I think, first built in 1939, and it's been wrecked by hurricanes a couple of times, but they rebuilt it. But it's very dedicated to, now it's dedicated to saving the sea turtles because they come on the shore and lay their eggs on the Outer Banks there. And so they had a lot of information in their bookstore, and they have like a little mini aquarium. It's a cool place. But I was surprised and happy to see that they had stuff on plastic pollution, which, you know, plastic pollution is really harming the ocean. And they had this cute picture book, which is actually a pretty good picture book, explaining the problem to little kids, and it's funny, and it's kind of, it brings in video games. So yeah, it's a very cute book. So I got that. And then I also got this book called Can I Recycle This?, which is a pretty good guide for what's recyclable and what isn't. Because a lot of people are really ignorant about what is recyclable, and they either throw away things that are recyclable or they put things that aren't recyclable in their recycling, and then that kind of ruins it for all the other recycling things. Because if it's mixed up, the sorters can't really sort it well enough at the recycling plant. So yeah, so this isn't 100% accurate, but it is pretty accurate. So it's helpful, and most people do not have this level of information when it comes to how to recycle packaging. So this was I thought this was a very well done thing. I'm listening for noises. So anyway, so I got those 2 things. Of course, it's Sustainability July, so I thought those were pretty appropriate to purchase. I hear the 7-year-old running around. What are you doing? Nothing? Anyway, so the next thing that I got, let's see, I'm trying to do this in order of purchase. So I got a bunch of books from thrift books. So first I bought this one, The Bully of Barkham Street. This is the second book in what turns out to be a trilogy that was written. The first book, A Dog on Barkham Street, I read to my 7-year-old grandson, and we really liked it a lot. And that came out in 1960. This came out in 1963, and this is told from the perspective of the boy's neighbor. The main character in the first book, A Dog on Barkham Street's neighbor, was this guy Martin who bullied him. So this time we get it from Martin's perspective. I really like Mary Stoltz's writing. I think she handles complicated emotions for children very, very well. And I found it really enjoyable. This was a little bit too old for the 7-year-old. He was really engaged in the first book, but this one, not so much. So there's a third one that I want to get and read it myself. But this kind of lost his interest. Dylan, I'm making a video. Can you please go? Because I'll get all distracted and flustered, and I forget what I'm saying. Okay. So anyway, so I did read this to him, and I enjoyed it very much, but like I said, didn't engage him as much as the first one. So, but I still really liked it, and I really am curious about reading more by Mary Stoltz. So I got that from Thrift Books, and then I got In This House of Breed by Rumor Godden. This is such a nice copy. It's really floppy. It's got really nice print, like there's space. I'm looking forward to reading this, and I may do a buddy read with someone. But anyway, I'm thinking January or February of next year, I would like to read this book. So I'm excited about that. And then I was interviewed by Tom of LA Books, who has recently moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, about my loss of faith, and then my years as an agnostic, and then coming back to Roman Catholicism. And one of the people that I mentioned that really influenced me was Dorothy Day. And I had a copy of her book. Many, many years ago, there was a flood, and some of my books got ruined. And I think that's what happened, maybe to that book that I had. It had a different cover. But I read The Long Loneliness, which is her autobiography. And then I couldn't remember the other book that I had by her, but I was looking through Thrift Books, and I saw this one, and this was the one I had. So this is a collection of essays, Loaves and Fishes, Dorothy Day. And then I also got this book, Therese, by Dorothy Day, because I love Saint Therese, and I did not realize that Dorothy Day had written a book about her, so I'm excited to read that. So, so I got 3 books, and getting a library of Dorothy Day books, and, it's good to get them back in my library, especially when I realized how influential she was and that I didn't have any books by her anymore. So I'm glad I got those. So that was Thrift Books. So then I went to, we're preparing to go on this trip to Montana, and we're not going to have good Wi-Fi at all. So I wanted to get books for the 7-year-old. So I went to a Barnes & Noble, and I got this one. He's into Minecraft. So he's more into Roblox now, which I don't think has the educational redeeming element that maybe Minecraft does. Minecraft got him really interested in architecture and rocks, like geology. So anyway, but I saw this book in Barnes & Noble, and I thought, well, maybe he might want to read it on the trip when he can't get on the internet. And then I also got him a dinosaur scratch art. He really likes this kind of stuff, and they have dinosaur bones in Montana, so I thought that was appropriate. You could learn about dinosaurs, and that would be something to do on the train. We're taking a 30-hour train ride. I got him a book on nature. It's got a little magnifying glass, and then, just all kinds of pictures about animals you might see. We're going to go hiking. We're going to be in the Rockies. We're going to Glacier National Park. So anyway, so I thought that might be interesting. And then I got him just these highlights, hidden pictures, in case he gets bored, and, So I got that. And then from Amazon, I was looking for chapter books that he might like, that maybe had children of color featured. And and he kind of likes spooky things, so I thought this might be a good thing. He hasn't warmed up to it yet, but he might. So, I like purchasing these things instead of getting them out of the library, because, they can sit on your shelf for months before they get picked up, but then they finally do get picked up. So anyway, Desmond Cole, Ghost Patrol, sounded cute. The Haunted House Next Door. So you can see what it looks like inside. And then I also got something called Clubhouse Mysteries. I thought this was the first book, but I think it's the second in a series. And it doesn't really have illustrations. This one's like a little bit more advanced. Oh wait, here we go. There's an illustration. So we'll try those out. And then I went to a used bookstore that's in the town that I live outside of. They have a little museum of local history, and then in the basement they have a used book seller. And so I went there and got some books that I thought he might enjoy. So some of these are like, kind of early readers. Hello. I used to have this for my own kids, this particular book I remember, but I guess I got rid of it. This is an interesting kind of early reader. This is a little bit easier. It just seems like a silly story that might be entertaining. And then this one about Houdini, that seems kind of fascinating, especially the boys. And then I used to have this book, I don't know what happened to it, but the story about Ping. I remember I read this to my son, my oldest son, and he was so upset about the spanking. He thought that was so unjust that he didn't want to read the book. He just completely did not like this book. Anyway, but it is a cute story if you can get over the spanking part. And then I got this one, The Glorious Flight. I remember having this book, or maybe we just got it out of the library. But this is a neat story about flying across the English Channel. So those are all books that boys might like. Oh, and he really likes Jackie Robinson. He plays baseball. He's been playing baseball for a little while now in Little League. And then in February in his school, they learned about Jackie Robinson. And so he does like Jackie Robinson. So I thought this might be a good book that he might appreciate having. So those are all for the grandson. Oh wait, and two more. And then we used to have this book too, but then I guess we gave it away. But I saw this, it was $3, so I thought that might be a good thing to have on his shelf. Teaches you all sorts of things. It's a fun book. And then I also, because he's a rising second grader, and that's when they do their first reconciliation and first Holy Communion. So the other day I was at a religious goods store, and I saw this, UCAT for kids. And I thought, well, this would be a nice thing to give him during this second grade year when so much is happening sacramentally for him. So those were all for the grandson. And then, let's see what else. And then I got 3 books for myself at that used bookseller. I got Murder for Christmas, which is a collection of short stories. I've never really taken part in the Cloak and Dagger Christmas event that goes on in BookTube. I did one year. I reread Envious Casca by Georgette Hare, and that's set at Christmas. But that's as far as I got. But because Janelle passed away, and I never did it with her, and I know she was excited about that, I decided that this coming December, I'm going to do Cloak and Dagger. I'm going to participate fully in that. And so I thought this might be a good beginning. It's got lots of short stories, from everybody from Sherlock Holmes to Agatha Christie, even Woody Allen. I don't know, are they all? Yeah, Murder for Christmas. Charles Dickens, Ellery Queen, Robert Louis Stevenson, Dorothy Sayers, Thomas Hardy, Marjorie Allingham, Rex Stout, G.K. Chesterton. So I think it'll be a good thing for Cloak and Dagger Christmas. And then I saw this copy of Fathers and Sons and another story by Turgenev. And I read Fathers and Sons way back, like when I was 19 or something. I remember my friend Franny had read it, and she told me it was good. And I have no memory of it whatsoever. But I remember liking it. I remember thinking it was a good recommendation. So next year I want to read more Russian books. And a lot of them I want to reread. So this is a reread, because I've seen people reading this around BookTube, and it's piqued my interest. So when I saw it, I thought, okay, I'm going to get this. It's a nice edition. I like this edition. It's illustrated even, and it's just a nice book. And it's got this other story too. And Fathers and Son is not a very long what the bookmark is. Ivan Turgenev. It's not a long story. It's not a long novel. So, so I'm hoping to read that maybe in January or February next year. And then I also want to read Crime and Punishment at some point. I started that many, many, many years ago and never finished it. And I love Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov, which I've read several times, or a few times. So I want to do Crime and Punishment. I want to reread Notes from the Underground. I read that as a philosophy minor at school, and I have no recollection of it. So that's also by Dostoevsky. And what else do I want to read that's Russian? I'm too intimidated by War and Peace. So I'm not going to try that one again. I've tried that several times, and I never get like more than 20 pages in before I give it up. I have read Anna Karenina, which I enjoyed, but I've never reread it. I've never felt compelled to reread it. But I have a book somehow, I don't know how I acquired it. I have a book called Resurrection by Tolstoy. So I want to read that. Anyway, there are other ones, and this video is getting too long, and I wasn't talking about my Russian aspirations for reading Russian literature next year. So that'll be another video, so I'll stop right there. But anyway, I did get Fathers and Son in a nice edition. And then the other thing I want to do is expand my Dickens. So I listened to Pickwick Papers in the spring, I think. And then, and I've read Bleak House a couple of years ago, so I'm branching out. I've read David Copperfield many times, and I've read The Tale of Two Cities and Great Expectations. But now, and of course, A Christmas Carol. And I read Cricket on the Hearth, too, a couple times. But I'm trying to expand. So I found this, Little Dorrit. So I think this might be, I might do this for Victober. Yeah, I want to try to conquer more Dickens. And this is a pretty good edition. I mean, it feels nice. I think, to me, if it has that nice floppiness and there's spacing between the lines, it just makes it so much easier for me to read it. I think it'll be a much more pleasurable experience when you can read the print, when I can read the print. So those are the 3 books that I got for myself at the seller, at the used bookseller. And then to do, oh, you know what? I forgot about a book. So I started to read this. I pre-ordered it, and I can't remember when I got it. It might have been in June. And I started to read it for Jane Austen July, but I only got 15 pages in. Delightful writing. Was like from the get-go was impressed by the writing. But I'm doing Sustainability July, so I'm reading 3 books for that. Those are all nonfiction. And then I was reading Sensibility. And then and then I have a theology book that I'm trying to read. And so it was too much nonfiction. So I've decided to make this for Historathon. So maybe I'll try to start reading this in August. I made August or September. But that was a book that I got. And this is also for a Historathon. So I may or may not read this in August. But the books that I really definitely want to read in August are, I'm going to bring this with me to Montana. It's Anthony Trollope, but it's only like 200 and some pages. It's much shorter than his usual 273 pages. But it's kind of big print. So that's small enough I can pack that away and bring it with me. And even if I don't get much chance to read, I can start it. So I'd like to read Dr. Wardle's School. And then when I get back, I want to try to read this one. This is in the series of Amazons and, 12s and Amazons by Arthur Ransom. I've been reading this whole series over the course of the last couple of years, and this is number 7, I think, out of 12. And this is the last one that I actually own in this set. So I've been trying to read them usually in the summer. So I'm going to try and read this. And then I also, for Hornblower 2023, this is the book for August, Commodore Hornblower, and I'm going to read that at the end of August. And then right now on my Kindle, I'm actually reading a Daphne du Maurier, The King's General, which is set in the 1600s during the Civil War between I guess it's Cromwell, the parliamentarians, and the royalists. And that's, I'm only like 17% or something like that into it. So maybe I'm a little further than that. But anyway, that's on my Kindle. And I just started reading that a few nights ago because I wanted something to read at night. And I had already downloaded it through Book Gorilla. Anyway, so those are the books that I have acquired over this summer, and also books that I'm hoping to read in August, my August TBR. There you go. All right, so that's it for now, and I'm going to tack on a couple of book reviews hopefully tomorrow morning. Okay, talk to you later. Bye. I'm going to do a quick review. I'm sitting in my bed. I'm being really lazy. I'm going to do a quick review of 2 books that I finished. Oops, pardon my hand. I'm just propping this up on my knees. I'm sorry. I'm being very, very lazy. But I finished them. I thought I would finish them. So I'm tacking these on, 2 reviews on. I'm going to try and make them short. So the first one I listened to as an Audible. It was called Terra Viva, My Life in a Biodiversity of Movements, something like that, by Vandana Shiva. And it was very interesting and eye-opening. I had heard about Vandana Shiva. I didn't really know who she was. And then I knew more and more about her. And then this book was published by Chelsea Green Publishing, which is an independent publisher that I really like. They do a lot of gardening and permaculture and nature and just all sorts of things. I really like them. And this is a book they published. And I listened to it. The reader was very good. She had that Indian British sounding accent. Anyway, Vandana Shiva has a doctorate in quantum physics, but she really spent her life working in environmental causes. So when she was a child, her father worked for the Forest Service in India, and her mother was a farmer. They were well educated, though, and they followed Gandhi, like his ideas, his principles. And there was sort of a feminist environmental movement going on because foreign companies came in and were logging this old growth forest in the Himalayas, and the peasant women there, could no longer get firewood. They couldn't forage in the forest. The flooding became a problem, et cetera, et cetera. So they basically were coming in and just destroying the ecosystem, and the women couldn't take care of their families anymore. So the women rose up and protested what was going on. So I found that fascinating, that feminism and environmentalism, or protecting the earth, were really entwined. It was a very different perspective than, say, from the USA. So she was involved in lots of things. And what I liked about this book is that it was very eye-opening. I mean, it's a disturbing book because it's basically these transnational companies exploiting the developing world by just going in and using these terrible industrial practices that destroy the ecosystem there, that ruin, the people's lives. And they're able to do it because they have so much money and they can work deals with the government. So she talks about several that, because I was listening to it and not reading it, it was kind of hard to track. It was very fact-laden. This wasn't like a memoir of her life. She really focuses on the movements more than her own life. But time after time, some corporation would go in, like Coca-Cola, would go into a part of India and basically took all the water. And it was horrible. It's just devastating. And I think she fought that. She helped fight that. And finally, they kicked Coca-Cola out of the country after years of fighting. There was, the Union Carbide disaster where the factory exploded and killed thousands of people. It was just a huge number of people were killed in that. She talks about how, I forget the name of the company, but they tried to patent neem oil And neem was something that the Indians have been using for hundreds and hundreds of years to grow their own crops, to garden. And it's seen as an organic pesticide. So it comes from the tree that grows there. And just the dirty shenanigans these corporations go to try to take the neem oil and then sell it back to the Indians. So that was one case, Coca-Cola. And then there's the whole Bayer Monsanto GMO crisis, which has caused so much devastation to India. The BT cotton, just, it's just case after case of these transnational corporations coming in and using very, very greedy, destructive practices that destroy the farmers' lives, destroy the ecology of the area, that has no respect for any tradition or any indigenous knowledge. And basically they turn them into sharecroppers. It's just colonialism all over again. But instead of it being a country, it's these transnationals. So she really, really doesn't like Bill Gates. She really doesn't like him. He's sort of, the face of all this horrible, greedy, exploitative, extractive type of business where these oligarchs are trying to pull all the strings and control us, basically control us. So she ends the book kind of on a, not on a high note, but it's not a high note. It's a disturbing book. It's very eye-opening, and I think everybody should read it, because just to get a different perspective. I think we live in a bubble if you live in the 1% or whatever in the USA, and she's coming from a different perspective, and I found that really eye-opening, and I really learned stuff. And she ends it by talking about our gut biome and how the foods, the way the foods that we're producing now in this agro-industrial complex, how bad it is for us, and how our autoimmune diseases have spiked because of the bad food we're getting. It destroys our gut biome. And so she winds up saying, earth care is actually health care. If we take care of the earth, if we grow things in the healthiest way, we will be healthy. And so our care for the earth will redound to us. And she talks about other things too, like, cutting down the forest in the Amazon and all sorts of things. And it was a very eye-opening book, and I'm really glad that I read it. There's a movie about her that just came out a couple of weeks ago. It's called The Seeds of Vandana or something like that. And I want to try to watch it, and I'll try to report back on that, what I think of that movie, that documentary about her. Okay, so wait, I'm going to have to shift a little bit. Oops, I don't want to drop my phone. No. The second book that I read, that I finished reading, was this encyclical by Pope Francis, and it's called Laudato Si, or On Care for Our Coming Home is the English title for it. I've read that before. I am a Catholic creation care person. I work in my church's ministry on that. I've been involved in things on the diocesan level. So this was, I think it's the third time I've read it. It's so inspirational, and there's so many things that I could read to you from it. But basically, he just lays it all out, and so much of it dovetails with Terra Viva and Vandana Shiva's perspective, even though she's coming from I guess a Hindu or Gandhian perspective. It's a lot of it overlaps with just the Catholic understanding that, God made the world, he created the universe, and he called it good. And, he gave us this world so that we could have life. And even though we do have dominion over it, because we are able to manipulate and change things and build things and design things, we are still part of nature, and we're supposed to be stewards. We're supposed to take care of the earth, of this precious gift that he has given us, so that we can live. And we can't just operate on with this obsessive consumerism where we think we have limitless resources that we can exploit, and we can just go in and exploit poor people so that we can get the resources that we want. And where I live, in a very wealthy area, we have too much. We have too much, and we need to just sort of calm down a little bit and not be so greedy, and try to live more simply, and try to live more deeply, and expand our sense of relationship with God to the gift of creation that He's given us. We shouldn't compartmentalize. We need an integral ecology, so it needs to be interwoven with all aspects of our life, because the earth is where we have life, and we can't treat it like it's disposable. So we have to have a broader vision. We have to think about future generations. We can't just think about profit and pray that technology gets us out of this mess we're getting into. So we want clean air, we want clean water, we need food, and we need to take care of the poor. And that's the thing. Whenever there's an environmental disaster, it's the poor that pay first. And we're supposed to love the poor, so we're supposed to serve others, to try to be Christ-like. And so anyway, it's a wonderful, very eloquent expression of all that, and he really ties it all together and makes it very meaningful. And it really affected me, and now my relationship with nature is very much tied to my belief in God and my gratitude for life and for the world that He's given us so that we can maintain life. And I've become very passionate about it. So that was a good reread. I enjoyed that very much. This was supposed to be, both of these, well, no, Care for Our Common Home was supposed to be a read-along for Sustainability July, and I did not do a very good job at that, so I apologize. Terra Viva was a really good educational read for me, and I highly recommend both books. And I'll put the names below. But yeah, they were both very good reads. The book I'm still working on for Sustainability July is Nature's Best Hope, and I may not finish that by the end of July. It might go over into August. So, all right, so I'm going to tack this on to the other video I made about my summer book haul, and my August TBR. All right, I hope you are doing well, and take care. Happy reading.